Welcome on into the Wolverine.com podcast. Clayton Safey here with Anthony Broom and Chris Ballas on Thursday, May 15th. We are going to break down the latest from the NBA Combine. Yaxel Lendeborg talking about his decision. We will also discuss Rod Moore coming back and running for the first time on ground in 14 months. Released a video the other day. Talk about our Michigan Football Preview magazine that is coming out this summer. Before we get into it, make sure to like the video. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button if you want Yaxel Lendeborg to play for Michigan next year. Subscribe to our channel, and we got all the coverage over at thewolverine.com. You can use the promo code UM1, that is the UM and the numeral 1, for 2 months of premium access for just $1.50 per month for 2 months. Great deal. So get in with us over there. How's everybody doing today? I declared it summer last week. It is very much summer. I mean, it is, we're rolling here.
It is until next week. And then it's going to be low 60s, I guess, here. And when we go up north to Gulf, it's going to be, I think 47 on the first day, Clay, maybe 52. So, pack your sweatshirt, is all I got to say. But beautiful day, guys. It's the off season. It's getting harder to find things to talk about that we haven't already talked about. It's good that Clay went to the NBA Combine, got some Yaxel Lendeborg stuff. Anxious to hear about that. Seemed pretty exciting. Seems like a great kid.
Yeah.
So happy to be here.
Yeah, likewise. And as far as declaring it summer goes, I mean, I'll wear shorts when it's 50 degrees outside. So that's summer to me. So just happy to be, whether it's 60 degrees, 80 degrees, just appreciate a good sunny day in the great state of Michigan. So
that's because you're a Michigander, and that's what we do.
That's right.
Yep.
Definitely. It was a really nice day in Chicago yesterday, although I spent all of it inside. I did go outside for like 5 minutes in the middle of the day because I was like, all right, I got to get outside. It's tough to be inside all day, but great time in Chicago at the Combine, Wintrust Arena, home of DePaul. And if you're walking past JJ Redick, Rob Pelinka, Nico Harrison, who lucked out with the Dallas Mavericks winning the draft lottery after trading Luka Doncic, like all these guys around that are a lot taller than me. I'm decently
lucked
tall.
out.
You beat me to it. Yeah, lucked out. I'm not saying the NBA is rigged. I'm just saying.
You think?
It's 1,000% rigged.
Yeah.
Oh.
There you have it. So
I don't know,
every freaking year. Ever since they froze the envelope for Patrick Ewing and the Knicks back in the 80s, guys, and made it colder so that they knew which one to pick. So there you have it.
It's funny. I don't think it's rigged, but it's funny. Like I walked past Nico Harrison yesterday, and like every time you've seen his face on social media or on TV during a Mavs game over the last few months, he's kind of had that shame in his eye. He had a little less shame, probably because they won the lottery, or however you guys want to put it, lucked out or didn't luck out. But they have the number 1 pick. They're getting Cooper Flagg, who is now good friends with Danny Wolf. We got to talk to Danny Wolf. We got to watch Yaxel Lendeborg and Vlad Goldin scrimmage against each other. They were guarding each other most of the time, especially in the first half. They checked in together for each of their teams. And then later on got to talk to Yaxel and Vlad. They kind of set the placards out at these tables. They spread guys around the room, and Vlad was looking for his placard, and then he sees me and Andrew Kahn from MLive, and he's like, "Oh, same people," and we were like, "Sorry, man," He's like, "No, it's okay." But great time talking to him. Enjoyed watching him. Didn't play as well as he would have liked, so he'll be back at it today, this afternoon, actually, starting at 2:15, I believe. He's trying to bounce back. But let's start with Yaxel Lendeborg and his decision. He says earlier in the week to Andy Katz of Big Ten Network, "I'm 50-50, maybe 60-40," and Andy said, "What's the 60-40?" He said Michigan. Then yesterday, Yaxel says, "I know I said 60-40, but I'm torn. I'm stuck in the middle. It's like I'm in quicksand. I'm back to 50-50. So, he's testing and playing really well out there in Chicago, which I think has helped him. Like, he knew he was going to measure in at 6'8.5" barefoot, which is really good for a guy that was listed at 6'9", 7'4" wingspan. Like, he probably knew what his wingspan was, so those things aren't surprising. But he shot it really well. He was near the top of the leaderboard in shooting percentage during the individual drills. Looked good in the 3-on-3 on Tuesday, and then was one of the top players in the scrimmage on Wednesday. He'll scrimmage again this afternoon as well. But as much as he thinks maybe the calculation has changed from 60-40 to 50-50, like, I don't really know how much of it has really changed. He's still looking for a promise from a team that they're going to take him in the first round, which would mean he gets a guaranteed contract. He said all he needs is one team to give him that promise. But then at the same time, he also said it wouldn't necessarily be a done deal if he got a promise. Like, he'd still have a decision to make. There'd be a chance he comes to Michigan. I would doubt he does that, but there's still like some whatever percentage chance that he comes. And then he said, I would, the ultimate goal would be to get a top 20 promise. I don't know that is really realistic, because why would teams in the top 20 like lock themselves into drafting just one guy when so many things could go crazy, could happen during the draft, and then you end up having to pivot and take somebody else. It seems like these teams, they give promises that don't end up happening from time to time, but they don't want to damage too many relationships with the agent. So if he gets a promise, it's probably going to be late first round, and it's probably going to result in him actually getting picked by that team if he's still on the board. But, as much as he might feel like he's leaning more towards the NBA right now, I don't know how much has changed other than his draft stock improving a little bit, and maybe some teams being closer to saying, we'll give you this guarantee that you're looking for.
It was nice, number one, that he confirmed basically what we wrote in our Inside the Ford Extra, right, the previous week. Everything that he said was everything that we reported, including the first-round guarantee. And, what was explained to us when we had our sources talking about it was, hey, last year one guy got a guarantee, and I think he was traded at Christmas. I don't even know who they were talking about because I wasn't looking at it. But to me, it's telling, right, because these teams, they don't want to screw themselves with agents, right? You don't give guarantees and then don't honor them. So they don't tend to do that. And so watching his game, I'm thinking, man, this kid is a perfect fit for what Dusty May wants to do. Clay, I was going to ask you, when I was watching, do you see similarities to the way that Michigan played Danny Wolf? Can he do some of that stuff? Obviously, Danny Wolf at 7 feet is kind of a unicorn, but what kind of ball skills, what kind of passing does he have? Where can he be a facilitator too?
Yeah. That was one of the things I was watching the most, and he brought the ball up quite a bit for his team, even off of some dead balls or made shots. So like, he was trusted to do that. I'd say the handle is maybe not quite as good as Danny Wolf, but it's maybe similar. And he is shorter, so it's actually even more impressive that Danny has the handle that he does. Yep. It's hard to be that high up and be a good ball handler, and he's no Kyrie Irving, but Danny Wolf's really impressive at it. I'd say it's slightly worse. The passing and the instincts and just like the way he flows was one of the things that stood out the most to me, because like, even he had a couple assists in transition. He had a couple really nice passes in transition that didn't lead to made shots, like kicked out for threes. Guy just missed it. But even when he didn't get the rebound and he's kind of standing back by the basket, he's pointing up, like yelling at his teammate on who to pass it to. And then they do. And 2 buckets came from those situations. So he's just got a great feel. He's energetic. He's out there smiling, having fun, really fun to watch. And you can't help but dream about or think about what it would be like to watch him along with the rest of the talent Michigan has. The rebounding is legit too. He had 9 boards. I think that led everybody in that scrimmage. He played 23 minutes. But even when he didn't get the rebound, he had his hand on almost every ball. He said he watched one video years ago of Dennis Rodman talking about timing up rebounds. And he was like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm not the most athletic guy in the world. I'm going to go out. And then thinking back, it's like he did have some of those where he like tipped it to himself and things like that, where it kind of reminds you of me not watching Dennis Rodman in the moment, but a lot of highlights, that type of player. So he's going to be an All-American, I think, if he comes to Michigan. I truly believe that.
And I think a Final Four team, maybe. What do you think? They got a chance at the Final Four with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, with him, what sticks out is it's the production across the board. It's the scoring touch. It's like you said, the ability to bring the ball up the court, rebounding, assists. Like, it's all – he's kind of like a jack of all trades, but doesn't have one specific thing that – and that's where when we talk about NBA teams that lock onto prospects and, this process that they're going through, usually when you give a guy a promise, you feel like he's got one thing that, like, that's the trait we're locking onto. And for him, maybe it's the wingspan. Maybe it's, sort of the positionless The switchability on defense, the ability to bring the ball up the floor, like those are all assets for him. But going through, I was just scrubbing through a CBS mock draft while you guys were setting this up, and let's do someone on our board, I forget who it was, did the math behind, okay, like what would it actually take to get one of those promises? Now, in the CBS Sports mock that I just looked at, I believe it's 13 of the first 15 picks in their mock are freshmen. So let's just say you've got 13 freshmen that are going to go in the first round of this draft. You've got a couple international guys that'll go. You've got, perhaps other guys that blow up at this event and maybe do get a promise from a team that's not reported or, kind of under the radar. So I think the chances of him getting a top 20 promise are probably pretty slim. I think the chances of getting, and it's great, like the idea of having a promise when you're a guy that's outside of the top 20 anyways is kind of crazy because there are so many variables that come with these drafts. And all of a sudden, if you're talking about a guy that's available at 24, 25, 26, you don't know the range of outcomes that could lead a player that maybe you like a little bit more to fall into the spot that you had previously promised. So again, you're encouraged by everything you've seen in terms of the skill set. Maybe that's the biggest benefit of getting to see him at this event from our perspective is that you do kind of get that on display against not just elevated competition. These are all guys that for the most part are going to be playing in pro camps this summer. They'll play in summer league. They'll have roster spots in the NBA next season. So that all of what he does pretty much plays is encouraging. I'm skeptical he's going to get the promise. And if he's at worst 50-50, that's great news for Michigan because then it's a coin flip. But I get the sense that it's a little more skewed in Michigan's favor. And, based on between stuff that's been reported in the last week or so, based on the combine this week, I'm feeling pretty good about the idea that he does wind up at Michigan. But a lot of time still to go here. Another 3 days left of the combine too.
And maybe no one wants to tell him this, but even if he doesn't get a promise, which seem to be like maybe there's one a year or like every other year, whatever it is, and some of them, who knows what you can trust, but like he's probably going to go in the first round. But I think he knows he has such a good situation at Michigan that he doesn't want to risk it, and he knows next year he could potentially be even higher. There are a lot of variables there. You could get hurt, all these different things, but he seems like a guy that would be willing and definitely is willing to really consider that option. He loves Michigan. It was his idea to go on the visit. He texted Dusty and said, hey, can I come up for a visit? They said, absolutely. He said their message to him the whole time was, hey, we're willing to wait for you. We want to develop you if you're here. Here's the things you can work on. And he said that those were, that's what stood out to him the entire time throughout the process. He identified 3 schools, Michigan, Kentucky, and Auburn, before he entered the portal. He had conversations with all 3. The others wanted to outbid the NBA or be the highest bidder. And not that Michigan might have been the highest bidder. Who knows? He didn't say. But he said Michigan, it was like they talked about numbers very briefly, and it was, hey, that number's there, so we're good to go. Let's talk about all the other stuff. And he fell in love with that. He was a fan of Dusty May from before Dusty even came to Michigan when UAB played against Florida Atlantic. He said he loved his sideline demeanor. His mentor, Aaron Johnson, who's a staffer at UAB, played at UAB and was coached by Dusty when Dusty was an assistant there. So he's heard nothing but great things. Those two helped him connect, with Dusty. So he seems very excited about potentially going to Michigan. And, even that interview with Andy Katz before the combine workout started, like, you could tell it's like he almost would prefer that, all things equal, but there's a lot of this process to go, and he's going to take it to the deadline. I think he's trying to hope, get one of those guarantees before the deadline, which is a month before the draft. So teams may not be willing to do that on his timeline, which helps Michigan's favor there too.
Right. And, and speaking to Dusty May, even though he couldn't talk about Yaxel Lendeborg because he's not signed yet officially, he did say, I liked my team. Whatever happens, I like them. So I just think Yaxel takes it up from, maybe a Sweet 16, Elite 8 type of team to Final Four potential. I really have no doubt about that, honestly. Seeing and of course, a lot of it depends on how a team comes together, right? And when you say that, there are certainly no guarantees, right? It takes some luck too to make deep runs into a tournament, into a Final Four. But when you've got a talent like that, and you've got Morez Johnson, who they absolutely love, and Elliot Cadeau, who as a table setter, this team has the potential to be really, really good. I can't wait to see him either way. But with Lendeborg, fellas, man, that would be lights out. Number one portal player, number one portal class, and in my opinion, anyway, I think they're number 4 on 3, which includes in and out guys coming in and leaving. But to me, that would be a team I could not wait to cover.
It's already a team I can't wait to cover, whether Lendeborg comes or not. I mean, I think what we've seen is, that was last season was very affirming for how good of a coach Michigan has with Dusty May, and the fact that they didn't let any of this stuff, the contract stuff, linger. There was no courtship by anyone else. They pledged to him, and they were rewarded for it. I know they were played a little shaky late in the year, but I think Dusty May is a guy that, typically, we talked about this when he was hired. Those guys like a Dusty May, when you make a deep run at another school, that typically is a sign that you can do that just about anywhere. Dusty May is going to have Michigan in the mix for, not just to make second weekends of the tournament, but have a legit puncher's chance to get to Final Fours, to compete for national titles. And who knows, maybe he's the guy, maybe this is the program eventually that, snaps that dreaded streak for the Big Ten, having not won one since the year 2000. But I'm excited regardless. I feel, the closer we get to, as of today, it's 13 days away from when Yaxel has to make that final decision. I feel the closer we get to it, the little more at ease I am with the idea that I think he's going to be here, but time will tell, and all it takes is one day or one team to change that.
Mm-hmm. That's why, I just go back to the point that, him switching from 60-40 to 50-50, I don't know how relevant that actually is. He's just looking for a promise. What does his feelings have to do with it if it's promise or bust, right? And it seems like it is. So I don't know. I know a lot of fans, and I'm saying this because a lot of fans were kind of panicking last night when he said these things. But let's talk a little bit more Combine, and then we'll move on to football. But before we do, we got to talk about the 2025 Michigan Football Preview Magazine, which comes out this summer. Bryce Underwood is on the cover. Don't miss out on getting the 2025 Michigan Football Preview Magazine by the Wolverine. It is our annual 160-page glossy yearbook, and this year will be the 37th year of publication. Pre-order your copy before the end of the day on June 16th and get free shipping. On 3 subscribers get an even greater savings. Go online to order now, bit.ly/UM-show, or just click the link in the description of the podcast or the video here. Much easier than remembering what I just said. You could rewind, but just click the link, get your copy, get a copy for a friend, and get a copy to stow away for the future, for the archives. So get 3 right now, but you can pre-order that before the end of the day on June 16th. A couple other things from the Combine. Dusty May ran into Yaxel Lendeborg yesterday and joked with him that you're doing well, don't do too well. Yaxel said he liked that. Danny Wolf talked to Yaxel Lendeborg for the first time yesterday, and I asked Danny about how he sees the way that the Michigan staff kind of fits their system to the players. And he said last year he had to kind of believe, right? He had not really much film to watch from FAU that would prove to him he could play with Vlad Goldin. He had to believe it, and he had to believe in that staff and have the confidence that they could fit those pieces together. This year, he said, Yaxel has film to watch of me. To your point, Chris, earlier about what, can he do the same things as Danny Wolf? I mean, he was doing a lot of those things in that scrimmage. So I think, that really excites Yaxel Lendeborg. He said it was the second biggest, but besides his respect and admiration for Dusty May, it was the second biggest factor that influenced his decision to commit to Michigan in the first place. And yeah, he played well in the scrimmage, 13 points, 6 of 11 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3. If I were a Michigan coach there and I was watching, and there were some, I would have been kind of happy that maybe he didn't hit those threes, because then it would have been, okay, 19 points or like just what this guy can do everything. Like there were a couple guys that were showing out to that level, like Tahad Pettiford. Every time I go to a gym, watch a basketball game now, he's dropping 23 points like he did yesterday. Auburn guard. So there were some guys that kind of made that type of splash. I'd say Yaxel was like maybe top 5, top 6 of guys that showed out in that scrimmage. And the next scrimmage there were some others too, but 2 assists, 1 steal, 9 rebounds, 6 of them were on the offensive glass. He's relentless there, and I think that excites Michigan. They want to get better on both ends of the floor on the glass. Vlad, 3 points, 1 of 6 from the field, airball to 3. He was wide open, 1 of 2 from the free throw line, 2 rebounds, both on the offensive boards. Had a couple he could have grabbed on the defensive side. 5 personal fouls in less than 3 quarters, 2 or 3 just BS calls. He was joking about that when we got to talk to him off the camera, and like he like couldn't believe it. It's the NBA, it's supposed to be more physical, and there you go. 1 steal, 1 turnover from Vlad. I'm hoping that this dude gets picked, man. Late first round, hopefully that he could get something there, and I think he'll play better today.
Good, yeah. I'm excited for him, and it'll be fun to see where he ends up. I think he's going to make a team. Obviously, he'll be on a roster next year. He's going to have to improve his shooting, obviously, and we saw a few last year. There were times it was all or nothing, though, guys. When he was on, he was on. When he was off, he was breaking some backboards a couple of times there. So, but what a pleasure covering him, for a year. Wish that we had gotten to see him for 2 or 3 years. What a great kid he is. So love the fact that Dusty was there watching him as well. And, he wasn't just there for Yaxel Lendeborg. Anybody who thinks that doesn't know Dusty May and how he supports his guys. I've literally never heard anybody say a bad word about Dusty May anywhere. Even competitors and rivals have great things to say about him, and it kills them, right? It was kind of like when John Beilein was here and Michigan State fans said, I can't hate this guy. They just really, really want to hate this guy. Now they hate the fans and everything else about the university, but they can't hate John Beilein, and Dusty May is very similar. So, but Vlad, I'm hoping for the best for him. And I think this guy is a great teammate. And I think there are a lot of things that he can give, even in this day and age. Is that you in the background there, Clay? In that picture?
Yeah, it is. That's sounding, I think, Atlanta, maybe.
There you have it. Okay. Yep. Clay was getting ready to check in. So, but I think he's going to have a good career wherever he ends up.
I do too. He just screams like backup big to me. Maybe your 9th or 10th guy off the bench, or 9th or 10th guy into a game, I should say. Really good player, really nice guy. I think that the physicality of the Big Ten early on, I think, was a little eye-opening for him. But it's crazy to say, given that he was in college as long as he was, I think you saw him get better. He was a known commodity, but I thought you saw him get better. Obviously, took his game a little bit away from the basket, just shooting the open threes when they presented themselves. I carry the memory of seeing his first career collegiate 3-pointer in person down in Fort Myers, and that's made the whole trip worth it. Let me tell you, he's a good player. I think that he really took a step forward as a defender as well. So I hope he makes the team. Hope he plays a little bit better in this scrimmage. But really good to see him just out there, and cool for Dusty May to kind of see him through to the end as well. They've been together a long time, and not that he's there to kind of shepherd him off into the NBA, but cool that he's there to watch and maybe give feedback, and just going to take in the game with him as well.
Yeah, I don't think it could hurt that, like, how connected Dusty May is for Vlad getting that combine invite. I know he was kind of on the fringe, and I guess he was really excited when he got it. And by all accounts, has done pretty well there. Like, the scrimmage was what it was. He makes 2 more layups, and it's just a completely different story. But 7 foot barefoot. Like, he's not one of these guys that was listed 7'1". I know Danny Wolf was 6'10.5" barefoot. So you're 7 foot in shoes, but Vlad was listed at 7'1", 7 foot barefoot, 7'5" wingspan, I believe it was. And then did pretty well in some of the drills, not as much in the shooting ones. So yeah, and Dusty May was there, Akeem Miskadeen was there, Mike Boynton was there. They were watching all their guys, and Danny Wolf was sitting over there with Akeem Miskadeen during Vlad's scrimmage, and they were rooting him on. So it was kind of the whole Michigan family from that standpoint. I will say, just sitting across the court from Dusty May during that scrimmage, like the amount of guys that came up to him and were like, the different coaches wanted to talk to him or just say what's up. Like he knows just about everybody. Every time you turn around or you walk past him, he's in a different conversation with somebody, sitting down at a table with different groups of people. Like, I mean, this guy's just a real deal in terms of just the connections. And you hear about, I mean, Chris, you wrote an outstanding story the other day from your sit down with Dusty May about how, you know, Elliot Cadeau, was it his high school coach or one of his AAU coaches, said, you got to go to Michigan. That's the place you want to play for Dusty May. And they went to Atlanta to meet with Michigan once the season ended down there. You know, like that stuff doesn't happen for every coach and every program. Michigan is really lucky here.
They've got sources everywhere that respect them. And that's what really makes you feel good about the direction of the program, right? Whether it's an AAU coach or whether it's a high school coach. And some of those guys still matter, right? These high school coaches that have been there for a while, whether it's a prep school coach, whether it's a college assistant, Clay, that you talked about, talked to some of Yaxel Lendeborg's people. You know, it's unbelievable the ties that he has at, I think, 47 years old, 48. And he is, it's hard to believe that he's only been doing this for the short time that he has been. And the good news is he is a young 47 or 48, whichever it is. And this guy is going to be around for a long time. You hope it's at Michigan. Having spoken to him on and off the record, he loves it here. And, you know, even when people were talking about Indiana, we made it pretty clear that we thought he wasn't going anywhere. And that was exactly the case. He really loves Michigan and he wants to be here.
Yeah, and I'm an old 32, by the way. So an old soul, as Chris likes
you
to
are
say.
an old soul. There's no question.
Yeah, it feels good to, like, last year this time. Obviously, storylines a lot differently. They just put a roster together. You're seeing how things still come together, and even that we knew that Dusty was a good hire. There was the uncertainty of what will this look like? What will they do in year one? How do these pieces fit together? Now you come out of year one knowing that I think there's nothing but even brighter days ahead. As fun as this season was, they're going to have really good teams in the future that probably are going to win a lot of games, more than one or two possessions, which is kind of a key trait of this year's team. And just kind of keep pushing this thing forward. And you've got a guy who in Dusty who's connected and can kind of hold court, so to speak, in these you know, mixed sort of settings where you got coaches and players and agents and things like that. So it's cool to see. You know, Michigan's not at the epicenter of the basketball universe per se, but I think they're in great shape and for now and for years to come.
Yeah, just the connections. Like he almost hired Woj from ESPN last year as his GM before then he goes to St. Like how they know each other and how they're friends enough to go to a Bruce Springsteen concert with Adam Schefter together. Who knows? But like that's just years and years of him talking to anyone and everyone that he could, trying to, you know, learn about basketball, but also make connections and all that. And Chris, you mentioned it with all the sources around the country. I mean, just the like speed at which you have to work now with the transfer portal. They're just so well adept for that landscape. The whole Penn State staff was there as well. They are probably nervous as hell. Their big man, Yannick Niedenhauser, earned the combine invite from the G League Elite Camp. So if he would go, maybe that helps. Who knows? The Michigan, maybe he'd be a second rounder, but maybe that hurts Vlad, helps Michigan's chances of getting Yaxel, helps Michigan in the Big Ten playing against Penn State. But I wouldn't be too worried about Penn State with the talent Michigan has. But he's been a talk of the combine. Let's move on to Michigan football and Rod Moore. Nothing going on really in the Michigan football world until they have summer workouts starting in June. But Rod Moore back on the field, shared the video of him running with a pretty significant brace on his left leg. Stride looked, you know, not 100% what it normally is, but it was his first time running on ground in 14 months. So he's making progress. So that in that respect, it's good to see. At the same time, still, you know, it's nearly mid-May when he posted it. And, you know, there's not all that much time until fall camp. I would imagine there's kind of a slow ramp, and who knows if he sees the beginning of the season on the field. Had to have the second surgery and all that. So not your traditional ACL recovery, but good to see that he's back on the field.
Good to see, and a little bit nerve-wracking, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. As important as he is to this secondary and to this defense, I would have hoped that he would be further along by now. We continued to hear from Sharon more publicly that, hey, he's on a great path, he's on a great trajectory, so on and so forth. And then you see that and you're thinking, wow, he's still got a lot of work to do. So if there's anybody who's going to do it, and I know it's cliche, but it is Rod Moore that's going to be back out there. And I can't stress the importance of his leadership too. There are some guys back there that need a little bit of mentoring, and Rod Moore is the perfect guy for that. So hopefully they get him back at 100%. Maybe it's the second month of the season or something, but they need him out there. And so to me, a couple question marks that I hadn't had before. I was really counting on him. I'm still hopeful. And this is with no information other than what we are seeing and hearing. But to me, it still looks like a question mark as to where he'll be at the start of the season.
Yeah, I don't think you can rule out just how important he is. I mean, if he comes back and he's healthy, and I think he is coming back. I don't mean to say if or qualify it, but he can have a Mikey Sainristil-esque impact on the back end of this defense. He's that good. He's an All-American type of player. Obviously, he's going to be a captain this year. He'll be a 2-time captain. So that leadership, all that is there. But, when you start talking about running for the first time in 14 months, and I think it's just human to wonder how much of the vintage Rod Moore is there if he does come back, healthy. Like, is he 90% of what he was? Is he 100%? Is he 80%? Is it, whatever? I think it's pretty telling that they have questions about it too, given that they did address the secondary via the transfer portal. You bring in a TJ Metcalf. You brought in a couple guys last year. Jaden Mangum should be healthier and competing for a role. You've got some of the young guys that are up and coming, but for as much of a feel-good moment as you see the post of him running, and he's obviously that's a milestone for him. But this is also well over a year after the initial injury occurred. So I think if you're someone that's concerned by it, I think you have reason to be. I think he'll be back. I don't know when that will be, but I don't think we're looking at, him getting shut down or anything like that. But, May 15th, we're a little less than 2 months out from the start of fall camp, or probably a little more than 2 months out from the start of fall camp. How ready is he going to be? I think that is, I have a bigger, like you said, Chris, I have more questions about that now than maybe I did previously.
I think a big piece of it for me is not like if he had torn his ACL and then he started running, let's say he tore his ACL late last summer, then he starts running in mid-May, I would say, okay, seems like he's on track. But it's the 14 months part. I think to not run for that long, I think indicates that everything's probably going to be slowed down in the recovery. And I'm obviously no doctor, but that's the part that scares me the most, I think.
And having that second surgery, we don't know what goes into it or whatever, but having that second surgery clearly set him back a little bit too. So, but again, nobody's going to work harder than this guy. He already kind of had a Mikey Sainristil type of impact on that secondary when he was out there. He's made some of the biggest plays in Michigan history, and that's not hyperbole, right? And that's who he is. Having those two guys back there together almost wasn't fair to opponents. So I love Rod Moore. Can't wait to get him back, and hoping like hell that he gets healthy here in the next 2-3 months.
Yeah, I was going to say he could have a Rod Moore impact.
Exactly.
In the back end. But no, I agree, like that next level of even Rod Moore. You mentioned it, Anthony, when you look at the depth chart, you do have two guys who have started college games before, TJ Metcalf and Jaden Mangum. And then you have two guys who were already in Michigan safety rotation last year, Mason Curtis and Brandon Hillman. Now, some of those guys will take snaps at nickel, whatever. So it's not like you just have four guys for 2 spots necessarily. It's 4 guys for maybe 2.5 spots, depending on how you split the snaps at nickel. But it's okay. You have really good depth there. Maybe as good depth there as you do at any position on the football field, which it's not a small thing when you do have these questions about Moore's status, I think.
Yeah, I think they've done a good job in addressing it. I don't have any concerns about if, let's just say, Rod Moore is on the shelf for a bit. Are they going to be in trouble at safety? I don't think so. I think that room can only get a boost by his presence as opposed to being hurt by not having him out there. Obviously, having him out there is the most ideal. And, even if he is a percentage of what his self was before, that's an upgrade for the back end of this defense. So we'll see what winds up happening. I feel still pretty good about the defense overall. I feel good about the secondary. I think the front two levels of the defense are a little bit stronger, but overall, I feel they're in a good spot here. And you know what? They have the benefit of letting him. We talk about a concern about a second procedure. Maybe that second procedure is what allows him to get back to his most optimal version of himself. So no need to, this is 5th year in college. No need to throw him into the mix if he's not fully ready. So I just hope that it's as quick as it can possibly be.
Mm-hmm. And in 2023, he kind of had not a similar injury, but he didn't play maybe first couple games, didn't play many snaps, was kind of working his way back into shape. So he's done this before and then had unbelievable impacts, Ohio State game, all these different things, Rose Bowl. So it's possible for him. How many national championships will Dusty May win at Michigan before we close out?
It's hard to win a national championship. Remember we had some guy on the board saying that Juwan Howard was going to win multiple national championships at Michigan. And I questioned that. I said, hell, you take one. If you're given, hey, will he win one here? You take it and run if you're given that in advance. And
the program has one.
Yeah, the program has one. And the guy got really mad at me. But so with Dusty May, I think he will win one here. And of course, I thought John Beilein would win one here, and he should have. Right. And again, that just goes to show you how hard it is with the whole Louisville thing. They definitely should have won that game. They got a bad whistle. And that's a big reason, in my opinion, that he didn't win it. Villanova was just a better team. But, John Beilein, too, was a victim of losing a lot of good players early. He was too good of a talent developer. So there are a lot of factors that go into it. But I do believe that Dusty May will get one here.
Yeah, it's tough, especially. I mean, it's tough to say that any guy, how long any guy is there, because Dusty May could explode in the next few years, and then we go from him holding court at the NBA Combine to now being one of the guys watching prospects at the NBA Combine. It's possible. It's not impossible. I'll just say that. But let's just say that Dusty May is here for 10 years. Do I think that he is good enough, and this program will be in good enough shape on all fronts, NIL, portal, all of those aspects? Do I think he could get one? I absolutely do. I wouldn't be surprised if they played in a couple national championship games. So it's possible. I'll say one just because it's tough to say more than one because Michigan only has one. The Big Ten doesn't have one in a quarter century here.
Maryland.
So, well, okay. Point stands.
It wasn't Big Ten. I'm just kidding. But no, it's a great point. I'm usually a math guy in terms of it's way easier to just say no or take the field when someone's like, well, is it the field or this team? It's like, I'll take the field. It's like so many things could happen, but I kind of do think he's going to. And part of that is because I think he's going to be here well beyond 10 years. I think it's going to be 15, 20, which would be just an unbelievable run. It's hard to bet on that too. So many things could happen there, but I'm going on a limb on those two, I guess. And yeah, it did look like at one point Michigan was going to be able to under Juwan Howard. It never actually happened. They had a chance if Livers would have stayed healthy in 2021. That was the chance, right? It wasn't, they're doing so well this year, they're going to in the future. It's like, no, they're doing so well this year that this is their shot in hindsight.
Yeah. Well, it shows you how fleeting it is too. I mean, even
100%.
On the football side of things, they lose any of those games, late in the season when Harbaugh was suspended, none of that probably happened. So
right.
It's just,
who could have predicted
that
he was going to get suspended like that?
I know. It just shows how weird stuff happens, and windows can close quickly too. So I think their window with Dusty May will be open for a long time. As long as he's there, I think they're going to have a puncher's chance at it. But you're right on the math side of it. It's so tough to predict.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's going to be our show. Just wanted to get that in at the end. I thought of it earlier and then I forgot to ask you guys. So a little basketball in the football section, but that's our show for this week. Chris and I will be on the huge show on Monday from Agaming Golf Course. So check that out. Thank you to Huge for having us live up there. I assume we'll be on some beautiful patio or whatever. He's always got the A1 hookup. So check us out there. Head to the Wolverine.com.
This is the third or fourth year in a row my invite got lost in the mail. You guys will have to do some recon on that for me.
We will. If you would have been hired like a week before Clay, this would be you up there, So on the seniority.
If you want to go. If you want to go. Believe me.
If you want to go, you can go carry Clay's clubs. How's that? And bring us drinks.
I was being recruited heavily to do this anyway, so I was getting calls all over the place. So if you want to go, by all means.
No, I'm famous for like, oh, woe is me, I didn't get the invite, and then being like, I didn't really want to go anyways.
Exactly, we know.
It's nice to be asked.
We know. Yeah,
it is nice to be asked.
Yes.
So, anyway,
next year,
have a good time.
Next year, champ. Right? Is that what you say? Next year, kiddo. Yeah,
that's right.
There's always next year. There's always August. You can go in August, but yeah, we got the huge show summit. Head to the Wolverine.com. All of your Michigan football, basketball recruiting coverage there. Use the promo code UM1 for 2 months of premium access for just $1. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.